Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Wolf, one of the analysts and shoutcasters in the MPL Philippines, which is the biggest and the franchise-based league of Mobile Legends in the Philippines. And I'm sure that there are other MPL regions out there like Indonesia and Malaysia. And yeah, I'm proud to be part of the broadcasting team in the Philippines. I'm also part of the broadcasting team of the M1 and the M2 World Championship as their official analyst. And I'm also one of the coaching staff, or I was part of the coaching staff as the analyst of many esports teams in the Philippines, particularly Onyx Philippines Mobile Legends from the past. So I'm talking to you because I just found out that there will be a North America qualifier for M3 World Championship that's happening in December. And also there will be qualifier for, I believe, Brazil. If there's MPL Brazil already, so there will be a representation from Brazil. I believe that CIS as a region had representatives from the previous World Championships as well, and Japan as well, and big part of Southeast Asia. So it's now a massive esports scene, and I thought that there are really no videos yet like defining the standard phases of the game, to really aid new viewers in the scene that aren't that familiar with Mobile Legends. So I'm making this video. In this particular video, I'm going to be explaining the phases of the game and what the Mobile Legends game looks like. The next videos that I'll make will include how to watch Mobile Legends so that you'll understand it much better. And I will also explain the roles and positions of Mobile Legends in the next videos. For now, I'll talk about the phases of the game and what Mobile Legends really is. So basically, Mobile Legends is a mobile game but played in your smartphone, right? So it's I grew up in a mobile background. That's why I have to explain this for some of the viewers out there. Basically, the MOBA is a genre, which means genre of gaming, which means multiplayer, but online battle arena, where you get to play one character or hero, and that hero has certain abilities, and they can dish out damage. Some are sneaky, some are strong in fighting, whatsoever. They do magic, they heal teammates. In MLBB's case, as a MOBA, you get to play with 4 other people and 4 other heroes with their own abilities. You get into the game and the goal is to destroy the enemy space. That's not easy. But for you to be able to destroy your enemy space, you have to be strong enough. You get your items to boost your impact in fights, and you also get levels to increase the strength of your abilities. And in MOBAs, how you get stronger is usually by killing minions, defeating your enemies in team fights along the way, destroying towers or turrets, strategizing on how to attack your opponents, rinse and repeat until the opponent's base structure is destroyed. That's basically it. 5 players with their own heroes playing the map with 3 lanes. They battle it out, they try to overwhelm their opponents and go through layers of defenses, gold turrets, and destroy the enemy's base. But that doesn't really come that easy. So there are after knowing what Mobile Legends really is, and when you're watching a Mobile Legends tournament, let's say the M3 World Championship or the qualifier, you're gonna see a game and it pans out. There are actual unofficial, but at the same time are legit phases of the game. Think about it as quarters in a basketball game, for example, right? So some things happen differently in each quarter, and they kind of define the winner eventually. So there are 4 phases of the game in the realm of Mobile Legends, and it all starts with the draft phase. Next is the early game, the mid game, and the late game. Very easy to understand, but also it's important for you to not overlook this. So as any MOBA, it always starts into the draft phase, and the draft phase is generally where the game, the phase of the game where the players select their heroes. And like I said before, some heroes have their own unique abilities. The players select the heroes according to these abilities. So that's where they develop their strategies, right? And since it's a team game, it's important to also pick heroes that go well with other heroes in the teams. Sometimes you pick heroes that counter the heroes in the opposing team. And also in the draft phase, because we're playing in the official servers and this is a tournament, you also have the option to ban heroes from your opponents. So if those heroes won't make it easy for a composition, you just ban it out. If you feel that there are heroes that are very strong in the opponent's team because they have strong players in it, you just ban it out. All right. If there are heroes that counter your strategy, you ban them out. So that's basically it. That's a draft phase where we establish the last 5 heroes per team. After the draft, we head now into the game proper. At the game proper, you start the game, you pick up your initial items, you pick your lane. So where do you go? So that is actually part of the early game. And in fact, interestingly, the early game can be subdivided into 2 parts. So the laning stage and the early game proper. And the early game, the laning stage is where, like I said, each player will go to the lane. So in each lane, a wave of minions spawns and they cannot be controlled by the players. They just run, head straight into the opponent, and they spawn at 10 seconds, then every 30 seconds thereafter. So each lane of minions consists of 3 minions. So 1 melee minion, 1 ranged minion, and a siege minion called the cannon. So you can see here, it's actually a cannon. And so in the gold lane, for example, in this case, the top lane is the gold lane. So if we just zoom in there, there is a range minion and there's a siege cannon. And we're gonna be talking about that later on. So basically what you need to just understand is that there will be minions in each lane, and each lane is important, right? So each lane also have their own sets of turrets, as we can see from the map here. Actually, let's look at this. Okay, so we will not be able to see that, but yeah, I think that will be, so there it is. This is the turret, a sample of the turret which respawns in lane. Actually in game to show you some of these. Yep. Okay, so it's perfect. So inner turret, for example, the gold lane outer turret. So you see this in the gold lane, for example, in this case there. You see your turret and your minions. All right. So basically, each lane is consisting of turrets, 3 turrets in each lane, 1 outer turret, which is the outmost turret or the tier 1 turret, 1 inner turret, which is the tier 2 turret, and the base turret, which is the tier 3 turret, and is generally like also called inhibitor turret. Once you take down the inhibitor turret, you get a special, big minions. You have mega minions, or what you call super minions. Anyways, so the mid lane is the the mid lane part of the map, but is generally the shortest one, and basically will be a point of contention for mid laners. There will be heroes that are most specified in the mid lane. So there's a tooltip here that actually says that mages take the mid lane, which is generally the understanding is, as a mage, you have massive wave clear, so you clear the waves fast enough so that you participate into team fights. Actually, mid laners are called position 4, so technically are supports or mage supports or position 4 mages, because what they do is to just tank that mid lane, just clear it out, and then transition into participating into team fights. I'll make a different video explaining that role, but that will be for a different for a different discussion. They also have the other lane, so that's the mid lane. Sometimes, alright, so here's what you need to understand. Sometimes the gold lane is in the top lane, and sometimes it's in the bottom lane. Sometimes the XP lane is in the bottom lane, and sometimes it's in the mid lane. But what is constant is that the XP lane is always near the turtle. It will always spawn the turtle, the first turtle of the game, which is a big objective. It gives so much like gold and EXP, and it's a point of contention. It will always spawn first near the XP lane, because turtles can spawn 3 to 4 times every 2 minutes, and the first spawn will always be near the XP lane. So what is the importance of that? The EXP lane will have the XP minions, which is called catch up. You have a special siege minion in there, which will have learn lessons, as passive, which means that the first 7 waves of the siege minions offer extra 50% EXP. So that will mean that you'll get level 4. And now in the gold lane, it's the complete opposite, wherein the first 7 waves of siege minions will give 50% extra gold. So that's the gold lane and the XP lane. So what is the importance of this? Basically, in the early stages, in the laning stage, you have your laners, your mid lane, your XP lane, and gold laners. Just stay in that lane and make the most out of the minions that they get from there. So, for example, in the gold lane, you get as much farm as possible, and in the XP lane, you get as much XP as possible, which also translates to you having having enough XP because of the extra XP that you get from the XP lane to participate into the first team fight, which generally happens in the turtle area in the first big objective. So that's the lanes. But we left one last lane, which is called, well, it's not a lane, it's a jungler, or the jungling role. So normally assassins come into this lane, which, into the jungle, because they can, dish out so much damage and they can kind of sustain themselves. They are also very mobile, so that they can transition into one jungle camp to another. So you always need the retribution, because that deals extra damage to creeps. By the way, creeps in Mobile Legends, when you say creeps, it automatically means jungle minions. Minions are in lane, so lane minions, jungle creeps. Right. So yeah, you creeps, you get your jungling equipment up, you deal extra damage, and you're like the second highest priority when it comes to the farm of the team, because of the fact that after the first 5 minutes of the game, you can actually in the early stages, it won't mean some junglers can participate into team fights and can dish out so much damage even in the early stages because of the nature of their heroes. So what this does is that in the laning stage, you have your mid laner, you have your gold laner, and your XP laner. So that's one hero apiece, and then the jungler, which will take advantage of the jungle. Now, where is the other hero? Where is your position 5, which is your roamer? So there's a mechanic in Mobile Legends wherein there needs to be someone to take the roaming item, which is also part of the roaming boots, which generally means that if you are in lane or in range of minions or in range of creeps, you will not get gold or EXP from that as long as you have that roaming item. So this means that you kind of have now a tool to kind of distribute your farm much even, or you can give your farm while also helping your teammates, even when you are in range of that minion or creep. Oh, maybe I haven't explained to you for all the you guys out there. So the idea, the mechanic in Mobile Legends is, if there are 2 players, or if there are 2 or more heroes in the lane in range of a minion dying, the gold and XP is split evenly to all the heroes out there in range of that. All right. So now, when the roaming items came about, when they're introduced into the game, you now have a mechanic so that you will not have to split the gold and EXP to all of your members, right? So now you have your position 5, which is the least priority when it comes to the farm. Just helping out in many parts of the lane. Maybe in the mid lane, for example. It could be in the jungle if it's needed. It can be in the side lanes or in the XP or the gold lane if it is needed. So your roamer or your position 5 is generally your go-to guy when it comes to helping, and it's really the sacrificial role for the team. Alright. So now that I have explained that laning stage, in the early stages, so right after the I would say the laning stage, which generally happens from the first minute up until the 5-minute mark, you now get a lot of team fights. You now start to group up with your team, and in the early stages you'll get early skirmishes. So why the first 5 minutes? Because there is also a mechanic in Mobile Legends wherein the first 5 minutes of the game, there will be outer turret energy shields, which is just extra shields for the first tier turrets, which also acts as if you take them down, if you slowly attack these outer turret energy shields, you get extra gold from it. So you kind of need to defend your lanes in the first 5 minutes of the game. And afterwards, it's your choice if you can stay in lane or you group up as your unit to take a turret or two in the early stage. So that's generally what happens in the early game. All right, come the mid game. So we've studied about the draft phase and the early game. The mid game is where the big team fights happen now. So, well, not really the biggest of team fights, but now teams gather around their item timings, their ultimate timings, and also just controlling the map so that they position themselves in the map so they can take team fights around turtles, around turrets, and the first few set of Lord. So actually, I'm going to show you something. It is very important to take note that there are important creeps. So we talked about the turtle, which gives in the early stages it gives gold as well as XP, and also you get a shield for the killer. The killer gains a shield that can absorb 400 damage and more, and also increases the physical attack and magic power of that hero by 24%. So you give it to your jungler, and then you can utilize this for 2 minutes around the map. So it refreshes every 2 minutes. It means that it respawns every 2 minutes. So ideally, you'll get 3 to 4 turtles, depending on the pace of the game. Sometimes it's just 2 turtles in there because it's always dependent on the respawn. And now in the mid game, the first Lord will appear. So no matter what happens, it will spawn at 9 minutes. 9 minutes. So this Lord is a very strong creep, basically, and it refreshes every 4 minutes. So in the mid game, you'll have 1 or 2 Lords out there. So imagine if it appears at 9 minutes, and you just take it out so quickly. By the 13-minute mark, there's another Lord, which is stronger than the first one. And the most important thing that you need to understand with the Lord is that if you take down the Lord, your minions for one wave will have enhanced attributes. So that's extra HP and damage for all of you for one wave of minions in the mid, top, and bottom. Also, the Lord will choose the enemy's weakest lane to attack until it dies. What does that mean? The Lord actually spawns from your base. If you take down the Lord, if you're the team with the killer of the Lord, which means a Lasset. That's why you need the retribution for this. That's why you need the retribution for your team. That Lord will slowly walk towards the enemy's weakest lane, which is basically speaking, the lane with the with the weakest number of turrets, for example. All right, so weakest HP of turrets, and the least amount of turrets in there. So that's generally speaking where the Lord will end up. So that Lord is strong enough and it will be able to push. Plus, it also enhances the first wave of minions when it spawns. Right? So that's it's a very important objective to have. And at 12 minutes, the Lord gains the ability where he can lunge toward an enemy building nearby and deals like 100% true damage to it. So basically, it has a double attack for one attack, and also it also jumps. The Sanctuary Lord also lunges toward, so it kind of closes the gap. So it's very tanky. It's hard to kill, and also it deals so much damage. So it is a very important objective in the mid game because it gives you a lot of gold, it gives you a lot of map control, and it gives you more damage, and it can even end the game at mid game just because of its strength. So that's generally what happens in the mid game. So sum it up. Teams will slowly group up around the big objectives like your turtles and your lords and your turrets. So they set up ganks, they set up kills, and they also set up for the success of their scaling heroes, which normally is the jungler and the gold laner. They still farm up. They still farm up in this case. Now, the last phase is called the late game, wherein in this time this happens at 8 minutes, 15 minutes onwards. So actually, there is this is interesting. Now, what I'm about to tell is a little bit deep into the theory of the game, but technically speaking, there was a patch, maybe 2 patches ago, which happened about 2-3 months ago, wherein the 12-minute Lord, or sorry, they kind of rescaled the growth of the Lord, wherein the 12-minute Lord from before will only be as strong as the 15-minute Lord today. So basically speaking, it is Moonton telling us that at 12 minutes, this is the strength of the Lord, and that Lord can take down the turret so quickly, and that means that, you know, just the timers will mean that it just aligns that this will be the start of the late game. That at 15-minute mark, you better take that Lord. You better not give that Lord to your opponents, because it will take down turrets so quickly and eventually your base, and also deal so much damage, right? And also the gold and the, you know, all of the other rewards are, you know, just very strong at 15-minute mark. So this is the start of the late game, wherein at this point, team fights are so rewarding, you know, team fights are punishing, that when you die, there's really so much that the opposing team can get from you. And also, this is the 15-minute, on average, the 15-minute mark is also where the jungler and the gold laner will have maximum items, on average, and, you know, an average game time. So, it's also important to take note that in the realm of Mobile Legends, death timers are based in the minute, you know, the length of the game. That's what I'm talking about. So at 18 minutes, any hero, if it's already 18 minutes, no matter what your level, what your farm is, you will be dead for 60 seconds. And there's no buyback mechanic in the realm of Mobile Legends, right? So you have to be very careful at the 15-minute mark up until the 8, especially when it starts to go 18 minutes, because you're done for a minute, and that's generally enough for the opposing team to defeat you overall. Now, there is, you know, like a hidden phase in the game called the late game, where it happens about north of 20 minutes, but, you know, it's generally just the late game. So what happens in the late game, you have to be very, very, very careful, because you cannot die, and that your death might mean that your team will lose. So what is the importance of the phases of the game? I will make another video discussing like the roles of the teams, of the roles in a team, or roles of players in a team, and also make like the general strategies of teams. And it is always related to the phases of the game. I need you to understand that this is what happens in the early stages, in the mid stages of the game, and in the late game. Also, of course, in the drafting phase. But yeah, that really sums up the first part of the Mobile Legends survival guide that I made for you guys. And I hope you understand something from this. And I hope that this is not an info overload. Man, I have a habit of over explaining things. And I hope that's fine with you. And I hope you're enjoying my voice as much as I enjoy making videos for you guys. If you have any more questions about me, about the Mobile Legends scene in general, and of course about the Mobile Legends metagame, just drop it down in the comments section below, and I'll do my best to answer all of your questions. But that's it for the first video of the Mobile Legends survival guide. My name is Wolf, and I hope I'll see you again next time. For now, good game and good night.